So Bradley has a little one.
Daylight savings time has really tested our plan and schedule for the day, and so I relate to that so much. I have a one and a
Oh,
half
so
year old,
you know
so
too.
and it's just me. So we're kind of in the same
Yes, I
trenches.
think
Oh man.
we all can agree, right? And everyone listening is like, yeah,
Yes.
I
What's
definitely can
scary is
agree.
I hear that we're not even at the difficult stages yet. When they get, preteens and teens, that it's even worse. Hey everyone, James Calendar and Bradley Jeffcoat here with HRV A Workplace Guide, bringing you the next episode. We're so excited to get this rolling, get Jevon on with us today. Jevon Wooden is our next guest, and we have an exciting lineup for you today, talking about a ton of different things from personal experiences, professional experiences, and how they've shaped us into who we are. And then also a huge topic, a critical topic for leaders that I am personally passionate about. I love that Javon is passionate about it as well. And we'll dive into emotional intelligence and how valuable that is to the organization. But before we get to there, I'm going to introduce Jevon. Jevon is the founder of Bright Mind Consulting Group. They're based out of Houston, Texas, with a strong focus of core beliefs around empathy, integrity, innovation, growth, people, and impact. Their mission is to empower leaders and organizations to create high performing, emotionally intelligent teams through empathetic leadership and innovative strategies. Javon's military background and tech expert turned leadership advisor and keynote speaker position he and his team to bring high caliber development sessions to mid and senior level leaders in organizations all across the industries. And with that, Javon, welcome to HRV A Workplace Guide. We're very excited to have you today.
Hey, excited to be here. Excited for our discussion.
Yeah, so I think, you and I have had some conversation leading up to today's episode, but I have spent a lot of time on your Facebook, your LinkedIn, and your YouTube social media, as well as your website, learning a lot about you, and at least through video, right? And so I've gotten a little peek behind the curtain at the personal side. I see the family, I see the kid, the little daughter recently turned 2, right?
Yes, yes, that is
Yeah.
everything, man. That's everything. You've done your due diligence, I see.
A little bit, a little bit. Tell me, I have 2 kids, 5 and 3, almost 6 and 4.
Oh,
How has the kid changed you as a person, as a leader, as a how has that impacted you?
oh, it's impacted me tremendously. As you know, James, having two of your own. As you said, she's 2 years old, and I thought I knew everything I needed to know about like empathy and patience and kindness and love and all these other things. But she's just taking it to another level. Now my keynotes are all about her because she's, you learn so much as a parent on things about leadership, things about guidance, and things about openness and curiosity that kids just teach you and kind of bring back to the fold, so to speak, because we lose a lot of that as adults.
I think what's funny about that is it's not the same. And I tell leaders all the time because I love emotional intelligence. We'll dive into that a little more in a minute, but I I, I do a lot of leadership facilitation, a lot of different things from disc to other content, and those are just tools in the belt, right? And you they don't apply to everyone. And I have a 5 year old, and I use him a lot of time in my leadership conversations. That both of my kids are phenomenal kids, and they are great kids. You get all the great remarks, but kids can be challenging sometimes when they want a meal outside of mealtime, or when they want to do this, or they want a new toy, and that challenges every piece of everything you've learned as a leader and how to respond to difficult situations, and it's not the same. Do you
No,
experience that?
100%. Absolutely. Absolutely, man. I mean, there's times when we're like, okay, we got it figured out. We have a nice routine. And once they go off script, you're like, oh, crap. Like, I don't get it. Yeah. So I
So,
definitely can agree with that. That,
so
there's no way
Bradley
we
has a
can.
little one.
Daylight savings time has really tested our plan and schedule for the day, and so I relate to that so much. I have a one and a
Oh,
half
so
year old,
you know
so
too.
and it's just me. So we're kind of in the same
Yes, I
trenches.
think
Oh man.
we all can agree, right? And everyone listening is like, yep,
Yes.
I
What's
definitely can
scary is
agree.
I hear that we're not even at the difficult stages yet. When they get, preteens and teens, that it's even worse.
James, don't
Yeah,
talk
yeah.
about that.
Hey,
Let's embrace where we are right
We'll
now.
get there when we get there.
fair
Yes,
enough.
enjoy
It
the
goes very
moment.
fast. I'm a little ahead of both of you, but it goes very fast. So, Javon, we just had a very important day in our country's history. Just Veterans Day just passed on the 11th, right? Just a few days ago. As a veteran, and then also the experiences you've had, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, Veterans Day, and I made a post on LinkedIn about this. Veterans Day used to be very tough for me. So Veterans Day is a day that a lot of veterans we think about the folks that we lost, and we think about those who served our left and our right who are no longer there. So that's the standpoint and the viewpoint that I look at Veterans Day from. It just gives you another appreciation, and it's a reminder like, hey, we are blessed. No matter what you're going through, we're still blessed. We are upright for one, and I always say I'm of sound body, mind, and spirit for the most part. And that's really the what I do. I just take a moment to pause. And now it just so happens that my baby girl was born on Veterans Day, so it makes that day so much more special to me. So back when I was in Afghanistan, there was a suicide bombing that took place on Veterans Day. So we lost about 5 people, 18 more people were injured. On the base on Bagram Air Base while we were all lined up for a 5K run. So it has taken me a while to kind of get over all that transpired on that day. And I was also part of the remains cleanup team. So that meant that I was treating the suicide bomber with the same respect, or at least their remains with the same respect of my friends and colleagues that he decided to kill. So it just took some time for me to get over all of that. So I have a different lens on Veterans Day than a lot of people may have. But I just say, like, if you're listening to this, just know that you are blessed and know that, don't take it for granted what we have in this country.
So I think I just got chills, right?
Hmm.
I read your post about the 2016 versus 2023
Yeah,
experiences and for Veterans Day. And for those of you that are listening, 2023 was the reference to his daughter being born, and a complete roller coaster there between those 7 years, from the
absolutely.
experiences and the way that that shapes you personally and professionally, right? And what do you have for the people that and it's across all lines, it's across all demographics. What do you have for the people, or do you have any certain message that you give to people that are, talk about how things are so unfortunate in the country and they hate the country and they and all,
Hmm.
because everybody has frustrations about different things. It seems like every 4 years, everybody has frustrations, regardless
Yeah.
who you are. What do you like? What's your feedback with those personal experiences with the military, 2016 specifically? And I'm sure there's a handful of others that you could point back to historically as well. But what is your message to people when they have those type of responses?
Yeah, there's a few things. One, I'd venture to say that everyone, if you can, if you're able, travel. Right, you will be able to see that we all, no matter where you go, we all have our different benefits and we all have our different challenges. No matter what country you're in, no matter what space, no matter where you come from, it's just the way things are. There's always a yin and a yang to everything. The second thing is, I would say that if you're going to complain, just do something about it. What can you do? At the individual level to impact the change that you're looking to have. Because a lot of folks, they'll complain, but they don't do anything. Right? Politically, if you have a gripe about what's happening, vote, for instance. So it's just like volunteer if you want something to change in your community. If you want something to change in the culture of your workplace, what can you do? Right? Lead, be that example. So that's the first thing that we can do. A lot of times we look at the macro level. We got to take things to the micro level, and the micro level starts with you. So just take ownership. My man Jocko Willink, I always reference him. He has the extreme ownership principle. He wrote a whole book on it. I love it.
Yeah,
That is
Yeah,
so
yeah,
I
crazy. James just put me on that
yeah.
book two
It's
I
it's
days
one
just
of the
ago.
assigned
best
that book to
books.
Two
Briley
days
Wednesday.
ago.
It is one of the best books you can read
Yeah.
because it's like a lot of times we want to point fingers and we don't want everyone else to be the savior and be the hero. It's like, what can you do? Let's start there, and then we can work on everything else. And then if you do something, other people will start to galvanize around you. That's just how things work. So don't wait for anyone else to make the change. You start with you.
My favorite part of that book is the fact that being and a lot of leaders struggle with the concept of the book of that everything that is a misstep or doesn't go right is the leader's fault, which is the central premise of the book, right? Is I didn't prepare you to be in this role or to be successful, to be doing that. I didn't give you the tools, resources, and knowledge to do it not correctly, right? And as a leader, there's so much truth to that, and I love the concept and the whole book, and I love the storytelling. I love the storytelling in the book because he relates it. I only read non-fictional books. I only read business books and things like that, and that's just me. My wife will read fictional stories all the time. I like things that I can relate to real life, and I know you can relate. For my listeners out there, I know they're going to say, "Oh, my fictional books are amazing," and that's your preference, right? And
I'm a
I'm not
fictional
going to
girl,
say you're
so
wrong. I'm just going to say that I don't think you're right. Is that the same thing? So, but Javon,
agree to disagree.
that's fine. Just let me know when you finish that book, though, Briley. And for the
Okay.
rights of extreme ownership, I would drop the title below. But Jago, if you're listening, you want to give me a little royalty credit, I'll take that as well. But I saw that and I thought this was really cool, Javon. I saw that you're the co-chair of the Texas Leadership Consortium.
Yes.
Tell me about that. Tell me the why behind that. Why are you? What made you want to do that? Why are you a part of that? And what value does that? What does that? How does that impact your life?
Yeah, so there's a summer youth program. I'm all about the youth and pouring into our future leaders. So we do a youth program every year. It's been going on for about 16 years now, and it's really ninth through 12th graders, preparing them for what's next, and giving them. You mentioned the extreme ownership, giving them the resources, tools, and knowledge and mentorship to allow them to be successful. To also allow them to see that they are capable. A lot of these students are coming from impoverished backgrounds, they're under resourced, underutilized communities, underserved communities. So it's a way to get them and gather them and say, hey, you can do this, and here's how we're going to ensure that you know that you can do it. So we teach them, we help them with their college prep essays, we help them get into applying to different schools, help them understand scholarships, and people from different universities. Is held at Rice University. It has been for the past few years, and they even come in the admissions office. What are they looking for students? So it's just a way to ensure that these students are well prepared for what happens next, and not waiting and being reactive, but being proactive about their futures. So that's why I love it. It's about a little over 100 students every year that we select. So that's what made me want to do that.
Were there any moments in your like younger years, so whenever you were in high school, did anybody feed into you that way? And is that why you got into that that level of helping students, or was there the lack of that whenever you
Yeah,
were
I
younger?
would say that certain teachers stand out for me, but as far as this, they don't know what they don't know. So those types of resources were non-existent for me as a kid, and I wish they were. So that's exactly right. I want to do that. That change that I talk about, I want to be a part of that change. So, in my community is very important to me, and I want to ensure that this not only happens in Houston, but also throughout the nation. So that's really my plight. Even my doctorate is using entrepreneurship, digital entrepreneurship specifically, to alleviate poverty in urban United States. So every single thing that I do has to tie back into not just the now, but that legacy, that future, in ensuring that everyone understands their beauty and their power, and just giving them those resources. So exactly right. Yeah.
How much do you think awareness plays into that some of those shortfalls or those that underserved group, those underserved communities, just awareness of opportunities and what's out there? Because so, in my experience, we see people go to do things that are things that they're familiar with, right? So I go through elementary and junior high and high school, and I've got parents and aunts and uncles and nephews and cousins and all those that kind of go on this career trajectory, or call it career, call it workplace, call it adult life trajectory, that they're going a certain route, whatever that route is. But it's also a lot of times we see in the underserved communities, that it's a trajectory that is just familiar, right? And it's my dad went and worked at a plant in manufacturing for 40 years, so I'm that's all I know. But I don't see the scope of the other things that are out there. Do you see that a lot in your work with the Texas Leadership Consortium? Do you see that in other areas?
Yeah, absolutely. And awareness is one component, but it's also belief. Because we a lot of these students, and we do it as adults as well. We'll see someone else do something and say, "Oh, that's really cool. I wish I could." Right? But you got to believe that you can. And that's the thing. A lot of these youth and kids really struggle with is, "Oh, I come from this. Why would they select me? Why would they give me this shot?" And then when they get that shot, it's kind of like a survivor's remorse. Like, I made it, and I still have all these other people back behind me that didn't get this chance. So there's a lot of the mindset aspect that goes into all of these things that we have to work through the kids with. And that as you grow up, you have those same types of thoughts if you never address it. So that's really a lot of the work that we have to do, is say, hey, you can apply to this school. You can go to an Ivy League. Doesn't matter where you came from. It doesn't matter that they're taking away affirmative action and all these things. You are capable because you deserve it. So and then we have to make sure that we keep reinforcing that. Naya Rivera has a quote that I love. She said, "A butterfly can't see its wings." So our job is, as leaders, is to make sure they see how beautiful they are. So I just keep reinforcing it. And one of the things I do is, when they do say these things, I ask them, like, hey, so tell me more about why you feel like you don't deserve this. Tell me more about why you feel like they won't give you a shot. And what I'm doing is I'm bringing it to their conscious, from the subconscious to the conscious. And I ask them, once they're like, well, really don't know. I just never had a chance like that. And I'll say, well, have you ever tried? Right? And they'll say no, because I just don't think. And I'm like, okay, so you're really counting yourself out before you even give it a shot, right? So, and I always say, like, just give it a shot, and if it doesn't work, do it again and keep doing it. Like, and once I give them that kind of courage, it's not confidence, because they're not confident yet. They haven't done it to be confident, but they are courageous enough to say, all right, let me do this thing. And that changed so many of those kids. Like, I see them years later, and they're going to schools that they didn't think, Brown University and Rice University and all these universities, or they started a business, that they didn't think would generate any income. So those types of things, and that's what I want the listeners to understand. Is like, sometimes it's not the grand things. Sometimes it's just showing someone that you believe in them, so they can believe in themselves. And as leaders, that can make all the difference.
For sure. I think there's more first gen students within the past 5 years than there ever has been
Yes.
before.
Yes.
So we've created a new culture of going to college is the new normal. And even though our parents didn't do it, this is what I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to do. Because I'm a first gen. So it's been, especially in my community, I see more and more students, especially from low income areas of my neighborhood and my town, they're going to college. They don't care what their
Mm-hmm.
parents did. So I think it's great that you invest in those students, especially in the
Yeah,
Houston
thank you.
area.
I appreciate that. And it's important as well, because there's also a narrative that college is pointless nowadays. Like, I don't know if y'all been hearing
Mm,
that, but a lot of folks are saying, like, "Oh, why get all this debt for college and all this stuff?" And you're coming out with a job that's paying $40,000. And I'm like, okay, I get it. Some focuses may not make as much money as you would like, but for me, the experience of college is a lot more than just a degree. The experience of college is, one, showing that you can stick with something long enough to complete it. Two, you get a network that you would not otherwise have. To me, that's the most important thing. Like, I'm not just going to college to learn something. I'm going to college to learn people, to have this network, this built-in social aspect. The social capital for me is the most important thing. When you do graduate, you have an alumni network. If you come on hard times, you can reach out to that alumni heart network. You can reach out to career services. Now you have all this at their disposal. The people that are saying these things probably don't utilize half of the benefits that comes from college. I used to think that, and I used to be like, man, college, whatever. And the reason why I realized that I thought that is because I didn't think that I would be able to do it. And as you can see, if you're watching this video, I did it a couple of times, and I'm doing it again because now I fell in love with the learning and I fell in love with the what college brings, the holistic perspective. Learning is only a small part of the experience, and that's how we need to start looking at things. Like, stop looking at just the minutia, the thing that little small part of it, and look at the journey, the process, and you'll start to see the power of everything that we do.
I love that. That's so
Hmm.
powerful. I see a lot of times in the workplace where you get different people have this mindset, like, and let's be clear, leadership isn't for everyone, right? And everyone doesn't want to be a leader. But my argument to those people is everyone is a leader in some capacity. You may not lead
Yes.
people, but you are responsible for leading yourself or leading certain pieces of things. And you made the comment earlier about, the work you do with the consortium or through the consortium, and it made me think, about courage and confidence and did you try and that comment, and it made me think about my kid. And my kid is putting on shoes, very trivial, right? Dad, can you put these on for me? Well, did you try first? No, I didn't try first. I can't do it. Well, if you didn't try, but that's just the mindset that I have. And what is, I guess, not surprising, but was one thing that we have to keep in mind is everybody doesn't have that leadership at home as they're growing up too. They may not have a mom, they may not have a dad, they may not, have the privileges that some of us have from
Mm-hmm.
a good family, a good support system, and those type of things that as trivial as 5 years old did you try to put your shoes on yourself, and then you fast forward 10, 15, 20 years and you still don't have someone. Well, did you try, Javon? No, I didn't try. Right? You don't have someone pushing the envelope for you and trying to teach you accountability and ownership and all those things first. So I it's interesting because that's not always the case for even kids, and it's an instilled nature.
Yeah.
I
I,
think. I think
yeah.
it's, if it wasn't instilled in you earlier, then you just don't know it or don't care.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're shaped by our experiences, emotions, and expectations. Right. So if you don't have that experience of someone challenging you to be a little bit better, challenging you to step into, more responsibility and accountability, where do you learn it from? Right. And that's a great point that you just made, James. And that's why it's so important. That's why mentorship for me is like a key. I was just teaching doing a guest lecture at University of Houston yesterday, and one of the students asked, "Did you have a mentor?" And I said, "No, I didn't. I wish I did because it would have made all the difference." A mentor is so important in the development throughout our careers, but also personally, and in some capacity. As parents, we're a mentor to our children, right? Because we're showing them, we're giving them our experiences, our opinions on how they can grow into a great steward of society, right? So eh, that point just it goes to so many different avenues of our growth and development I want the listeners to just ask themselves, like, who are they helping? Who are they challenging in that way? Who are they looking at to say, you know what, I know you can do a little bit more. I'm not going to do it for you. I'm going to challenge you, and I'm going to check in, and I'm going to support you, but I'm going to allow you to do it your way and learn. Oftentimes, as leaders, that's one of the hardest things we can do. And that takes the form a lot in the corporate world as delegation. I see and coach a lot of people who cannot delegate effectively. They're like, oh man, I don't want to relinquish control, or I don't know if they're capable of doing it. We have
And
to
they
stop
think that
that.
it's helping. They think it's
Yeah.
helping,
Yeah. They're
and it's
like, it's
not.
so much easier for me to just do it myself. Like, no, that's wrong. That is
It's
wrong
setting people up
answer.
for failure. It's setting people up for.
James is very passionate about
I
Yeah.
this
am. I
topic.
don't.
Me
I
too.
and
Me
it's,
too.
but a good, you have to be a good leader to delegate effectively, I believe, because
Hmm.
if you're a bad leader and you're trying to delegate effectively, that's just pawning work off. And nobody wants that either. And that is a
Right.
frustration. That is a huge frustration for the people that are supposed to be following you because they're not following that. Now they're doing your work and they get
That's so
frustrated by
true.
that. And
Hmm.
I'm very firm that you have to be able to do the job and you have to build relationships. I saw one of your videos about relationships. You can't be a good leader without knowing your people. And there's so much that's 100% factual. You can't be a good leader. You might be a good person. You might be a good manager. or you're not a good leader. And manager and leader is not the same thing. Tell me, you've been very vocal on social media, on YouTube. You even wrote a book about it. How have your personal experiences shaped where you are today?
Oh man, how much time we have? So
As much as you want.
seriously, like they everything, as I said, experiences, emotions, expectations, those are three things that kind of shape and guide how we govern our lives, and what we do. So every single thing that I do now ties back to what I've gone through and experienced in some way, shape, or form. Whether it's me looking at in the past and saying, "Man, I wish I had someone to do these things." Well, I'm going to do it for some other people. Or whether it's me saying, "You know what, as a leader, like in the military, for example, I see these soldiers. No one when I ask them, when I do my one-on-ones with them, I need to make sure I'm asking them powerful questions. I need to make sure I'm understanding where they're coming from. Why do they want to don this uniform day in and day out?" Right. Being very intentional on ensuring that I understand people at a deeper level. You talked about that video on relationships. That's everything to me. I don't want to be transactional. I don't want to be quid pro quo. And I don't want to be surface level. I'm all about making sure I understand, hey, do you have children? What are your fears? What are your drivers? What are some things that your strengths, and strengths not just at what you're good at, but what you want to and do and enjoy. What are those things that fuel you? Those types of pieces make that whole person. And if I can understand the whole person, then we can run through walls together. We can do anything together. So that's what I wished I had as I was coming up. And I'm like, hey, I'm very intentional about ensuring that I give that experience to everyone who encounters me.
Yeah, James is, we've had conversations recently because James is my boss. And so we have one-on-ones every other
Nice.
week. And he's very intentional on wondering, asking me those questions, those intentional questions of where I want to be in a year, where I want to be in 5 years, not just professionally, but
Hmm.
personally, and what I want to bring to the table, not at work, but at home as well. And so I think that's so important, is to make sure that you're building those relationships and feeding people not only personally but professionally. And we've had so many conversations lately about the culture and the relationships that we build with people and how they're so impactful not only to your job but for your home life as
I had
well.
Absolutely.
an operations manager and a really close friend of mine, and I hope you're watching this episode. And if you're not, I'm going to have a problem with it because you're a friend and you're supposed to be watching it. So you've got to sit through the whole thing. But we he I coached with him, and we were close friends. So the coaching is a little different when you're close friends because you get the ribbing and you get the friendship and the banter and all that. But I told him one day, I said, "You're." He would come over and he'd be like, "James," because I'm a very introverted person, and for those that are listening and watching, you're gonna be like, "There's no way." I'm a very introverted person, and doing events and speaking and even the podcast is a little way outside my comfort zone. But he would come over and people would come in the office for me because I was HR, and they would come in to chat about this or that or get. He'd be like, "Man, you're a different person when they're in here than you are when they're not." I was like, "But I have to adjust to the person. As a good leader, you have to go meet the person where they are. You can't take the same leadership style, same conversation and communication style with every person because they're not all the same." And and that was my advice to him because he oftentimes made things very transactional, and it was and not intentional. I just think that he was trying to keep a personal element out of it. And I told him, I said, you gotta understand. You don't need to get so personal and detailed that you're prying into people's lives, but you've got to have some personal element into your leadership style that you're building that rapport with them. And he came in my office one day. We'd been working together on the floor for a little while, probably a year or two. And he came in and he's like, "James, I just asked so and so how their family was." And I stopped and said, "Yeah, and he goes, "They started telling me about their daughter here and their daughter there, and they're doing that." And I was like, "What'd you say?" He's like, "Well, I didn't know any of those people, but now I know them." And I was like, "Good job." I was like, "That's part of," but from there on, yeah, that's what I told him. I said, "Hey, good job. I'm proud of you." But from there, it's not being emotionally and personally connected with people that you lead isn't about like the details, getting into the day to day. Let me know what you're doing. What'd you do at 9 a.m. this morning? What about 10:30? What? It's not that. It's just building that. How's your family? Oh, yeah, I knew your mom was sick. I knew you said something about your mom was sick. How's she doing now? Right? It's that piece, and that you're bringing in the care. You're bringing care into it, and now when people believe you care, they will believe you truly, want good for them. And then you can have those difficult conversations because they know you care. So that's going to bring me probably to my favorite leadership topic of all, and we've talked about this, but emotional intelligence. Because emotional intelligence is one of those things that I started studying early in my career. Never heard of it before. We've all heard of IQ, the intellectual quotient. We've all heard of that, but so many people don't know what EQ is for the emotional quotient, or EI for emotional intelligence or whatever. But I read a book, Emotional Intelligence 2.0, when I was very early in my career. Very easy read. I think a couple hours, maybe tops, if you're a slow reader. So that's a really good book. But I started understanding emotions and how to use emotions to get the results that I wanted, and not in a manipulative way, right? I'm not trying to manipulate people, but emotions impact decisions and impact organization. So you've spent a lot of time talking about emotional intelligence with leaders. Tell me what you see when you go into these groups, into these leadership sessions, and tell me what you focus on and the feedback you get from people, maybe first time or 50th time hearing emotional intelligence.
Yeah, absolutely. First and foremost, a lot of folks just holistically feel the term soft skills always gets me because I'm like, this is not nothing soft about this. This is foundational to the essence of humanity. Okay, so that's the first thing I need to break down that wall. And I work a lot with technical groups, so think like IT, construction, mechanical, warehousing, things like that. I work a lot with them, and they're like, yeah, I ain't got time for all of that. But I'm like, okay, let me tell you why this is important. So the first place I start with is that self-awareness. Self-aware. If you're not self-aware, everything else that's going out the window is jaded through a jaded lens, right? Because you're not able to understand how what you have gone through or what you believe is affecting and impacting your external. And that's the first place. And I always ask, like, hey, how many folks, right, do certain things? So one of the questions I like to ask is, how many people check in with themselves to see how they're doing or how they're feeling? And out of a room of 50, I may get two, right? So just think about that. That is very common across industries. And another thing I'll always check in, I'll have them do like a Slido poll, and I'll say, how many folks, like, would you rate your self empathy? Because a lot of people don't focus on self. They're just like, I got to get it done. They manage their daily day to day instead of leading their day to day. So they'll say, oh, most of them are, I'm just making it. I'll go 1 through 5. 5 is you're amazing. 1 is you're struggling right now. 3, you're just making it. 1 and 3 are the most common, no matter what industry I am in. 1 and 3. Most people are struggling right now. Most
But they
people
say
are
they don't have time to
internally,
focus on it.
they're saying they don't have time to focus on themselves. They're saying that from the moment they wake up to the moment they go to bed, they're reacting for the whole day. They wake up, they jump up, they're rushing to get to work. They're on this an hour plus commute, whatever they're doing. And when they get home, now they have family or they got to finish some work. From the start of their day to the end of their day, there was no space for them to just be, no space for them to just decompress or process. And that's one of the challenges that I have. It's like, if you're operating like that from day in to day out, imagine what that's doing to your psyche, to your emotional space, to your mental state, to your physical state. And this is why so many people are stressed and medical costs are as high as they've ever been, because people are just burning out and they don't realize it. So that's where I'll start first. And then I'll ask, like, how many of you in the past week or two have had a conversation you wished went differently because maybe you reacted in a way you didn't want to react? Every hand goes up. Why? Is because, again, that self-awareness goes out the window. Now they can't regulate themselves. Right? They can't regulate. It's too late. They're reactive. And a lot of people don't understand that your emotional part of your brain processes everything before the cognitive part of your brain. So if you don't slow yourself down and give yourself at least like 6 seconds to really process what's going on, then you're going to be talking out of your emotional mind and emotional brain, and you're probably going to say what you don't want to say. I have to learn that. It's a practice, right? I have to learn that because I'm a very passionate person, if you all can't tell. And sometimes that passion can get me in trouble because I'm like, nope. So I had to learn how to just slow myself down. And I recommend all the listeners do the same. And it sounds woo to a lot of people. I'm like, but this is scientifically proven that if you place an interrupt between when something occurs and just pause for a minute, I call it the sip test, long enough to take that sip of water, and then allow yourself to respond versus react, it's going to make a world of difference in everything that you do. And it's also going to lower your stress levels, right? Because you're not going to be so reactive and worked up. You're going to be able to calm yourself down. So those two components, that self side, really, really struggles in these rooms, and that impacts the empathy aspect, which is my favorite of all of emotional intelligence, because to me empathy is the first foray into the interpersonal, taking outside of the intrapersonal, which is the inter is between two people or more, intra is between you. So I love the empathy side, but a lot of people just struggle being able to not take on what someone else is going through or experiencing, because that's an empath, and that's not necessarily healthy. But cognitively being able to process from someone else's standpoint, a lot of people cannot fathom that. They're like, I don't care. Right? A lot of people are apathetic or sympathetic, but they just can't get to that empathy standpoint.
In HR, we lack empathy because I don't know. Maybe it's just a cliche, but it's hard for us to become empathetic because we hear so many things, but we also have to uphold these policies. And so while I sympathize with you, I can't. I'm within the department. I'm also lacking empathy because it's hard because to enforce that empathy as well as maintaining a policy and procedure. While I sympathize with you, I do
Well,
need
I
some
think what
empathy.
Bradley's saying is that it's difficult to be empathetic. Not that we all lack empathy. So we don't.
Yes,
All of HR is not non-empathetic. So let's.
yes.
But the
Maybe I worded that
No, I
poorly.
get what
but
she's saying
Bradley's
though.
point is you get numb.
Yes,
Yeah, you get
In our line of work you
desensitized.
get
yes.
numb because you get it all the time. And I use this very basic situation, and a lot of business leaders say that they hate it and it should be done away with. But you talk about bereavement leave, right? Very basic leave that a lot of organizations have. And a lot of organizations require you to bring, unfortunately, a proof of death, right? So something from the funeral, or something, an obituary. And I hate that. I personally hate that. I don't like who am I to ask you in this difficult time? You come to me and say, "Hey, I had a relative pass away. I need bereavement leave." Okay, bring me proof that they're dead. Like that is so numb.
And then I need proof of
Yeah.
Yeah, that is
relation.
so numb, and I don't like that. But and I tell people, so here's your view into HR View, a workplace guide. Here's the peel behind the curtain on this episode. That happens because it gets abused, and it gets things like that. Very trivial example, but things like that get abused all the time. So I've been in places where somebody had 6 relatives die in 3 months, and I'm like, man, either you're just having a really bad quarter, right? And that could be the case, or maybe all these people weren't really relatives. And I'm not going to be the person, regardless the level of intensity in an organization. I'm not going to be the person that tells you that wasn't a real relative, or that doesn't count, or okay, now I'm going to shift the
Because
policy.
who are we to say, oh, this person is not a significant
Yeah,
role in my life?
and I don't think that's fair to go that level with someone, but how do people focus on empathy? Empathy is so tough.
Hmm.
How do you be empathetic? How do you
Yeah,
work on becoming more empathetic, I should say?
absolutely. For me, empathetic is action. So when I talk about empathetic leadership, one, asking more questions. Right? Instead of statements, we ask more questions as an empathetic leader because we want to understand from that person's standpoint. So, for example, if I don't agree with someone's decision, I may ask them, "How? I'm curious. Can you tell me more about how you arrived at this decision?" Right. That's a simple step, but that's me being empathetic. That's me saying, okay, I don't understand this, but I'm, instead of saying this is stupid, I'm going to say, hey, can you tell me more about how you arrived? All right, let's work through this together so I can understand from your standpoint. because a lot of times the way people think and process is completely different from the way we might think and process. But if we look at it, it may actually give us some ideas, and then we become better or stronger, or we can collaborate. And another component of empathy is not just shutting people down immediately. If for example, that bereavement example, so you may want to say, hey, your grandma died twice this month, like how did this happen? Or you may want to say that, but you might just say, hey, okay, I hear that, I understand that, and are you aware of the policy? First and foremost, are you aware of the policy for bereavement? So you may feel, James, that you don't really want to ask them for something, but it's the policy. So that takes the onus off of you, so as the human. But we have to do this. You have to bring in something that tells me that this is maybe the grandma on your mother's side versus on your dad's side, for example. Right. So things like that is really taking out the onus of being right and putting the pressure on being curious. So that for me is the most important step of empathetic leadership. From an HR standpoint, I get it, and this happens in a lot of industries. Nurses, surgeons, all of them. You become desensitized because you see it. But what I will challenge you all to do is just stop and pause and just ask a question. Like, am I looking at this through my lens, or am I looking at it through the lens of this other person? Am I seeing it from the team standpoint, or am I allowing myself to just only see my way as the right way? So those questions are internal, and you have to stop and ask that before you assume, because assumptions is where we get in trouble, right? Assumptions is what kind of stops us and prevents us from stepping from the sympathy or the apathy to the empathy, because we assume we already know the answer. Well, you got to take away those assumptions so you can allow yourself to just learn and be curious.
You talked about it earlier. Being a leader gets draining, right? And so, what do you do to relieve that stress, that recharge? What's that element for you?
Fitness is my number one thing. I love to work out. I have a lot of injuries, of course, so I got to work around them. But fitness is how I decompress. I call the gym my sanctuary, because I'm in there, I'm able to just be and process, and whatever's accessible to me in that day, that's what I'm going to do. And or I may just take a tech break instead of walking around with my phone and stuff. For example, I'll go walk for at least 15 minutes just without tech, so I'm not distracted, to allow myself to just take in my surroundings. Uh, we don't do that enough. Today, we're inundated with information all the time. So I just recommend everyone just take a tech break, even if it's just 15 minutes from your day. Allow yourself to read a book or sit there and nap. Historically, if we look at all the greats, the great minds, they all did that. They all took moments to just be. That's why a lot of people, they say, "Oh man, my best ideas come in the bathroom or when I'm taking a shower." It's because you're just being, your
Your mind
space,
is
you're
off.
You're
You've
quiet,
turned it
you're
unplugged.
off. Yep.
off. Yeah, yeah. And so I recommend we take that principle and apply it into the rest of our lives, because those two saved me. Because I want to do everything. I want to do everything right now today, but I know that that's impossible. So I have to really make sure I'm managing my energy.
I
The natural endorphins that come from just being outside and working out and moving our bodies is
Yes.
unreal. And I don't think it compares to anything else. No false feeling of whatever social media can bring. So, unplugging is a huge advantage to regulating that
100%.
stress.
As we wrap up here, Javon, tell me the last question for you. Tell me what the greatest leader you ever had did. What made them fall into that category?
Yeah, I talk a lot about my guy Colonel Mundo. I deployed with him to Afghanistan, and the reason why he was the greatest leader is because he did what everything we talked about today. He made space for everyone. He could have just been prescriptive and said, "Hey, do this," but he would literally, we had a joint task force, so we had people from other countries serving with us. We had Air Force, we had Navy, we had Army, we had everyone, and he would just come to the table and say, "Hey, here's what we need to get done. What do you think? What are you seeing at your level? What do we need to be considered?" And if he did say something, he'll say, "What am I missing?" Those types of things, that's empathetic leadership in action. And that's why he was the greatest leader to me, because he could have just come into the room and said, all right, listen up, this is what we're going to do, this is how we're going to do it, go forth and conquer. But that wasn't his way. He made sure he made space, because he understood that he didn't have the full picture if he didn't get everyone else's experience. So to me, we can all learn from that.
What about the flip side of that? And no names, but what is somebody that in your career, your personal experience, whatever, that you were just like, this person doesn't get it? What were they doing that really put them on the other end of that spectrum?
Well, a lot of the army and military in general has a lot of both. A lot of great leaders and a lot of poor leaders. And the poor leaders, all the ones I saw, were just about themselves. They cared too much about their promotion and how they looked. So they were very narcissistic. They're very denigrating to other people who were less, lower ranks. They didn't want to listen to the lower ranks. They're like, why are you talking to me type of person. They just felt like they were holier than thou because of the position they held. So for me, leadership is not necessarily your role or title, but it's your actions. And I like John Maxwell's definition. He just simply says leadership is influence. So those leaders influenced poorly. They made everyone not want to be like them. So that's why they were poor leaders.
James and I have had a lot of conversations about that. It's not the title, it's not the amount of money, it's about the
Mm-hmm.
accountability that it takes to lead people. And you could be a leader without even being a manager or supervisor.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Like you said earlier,
yeah,
James, we're all leaders, right? In some way. Yep.
in
Hmm.
some capacity. That's right. Well, Javon, look, I know we're 45 plus minutes in, and I'm so thankful you made some time with us today. And if viewers and listeners take only one thing away from our conversation today, I want you to take away the passion that we truly have as leaders. We tr- Good leaders really want to be successful, and they want you to be successful. That is a passion that we all have. We want to clear the way for you to be successful, whether that's personally, professionally, and we want to get you. We truly want to do good by people and do the right things. And that's something that is so critical for us as leaders. And I think Javon has touched on it so well today of empathy and emotional intelligence and so many of the other things that he's doing inside and
Hmm.
outside of his career and profession that are helping people around him. And he's bringing people along for the ride, right? And I think that is the key to it. That's the influence and the support and the camaraderie and the community aspect of being a leader and bringing people along and doing things that are outside of the scope. So I thank everybody for tuning in. I'm sincerely thankful that you're here, Javon, today, and I love what you're doing, and I know we'll stay in touch. We'll be following along as you do things, and I'm sure we'll be in contact for some opportunities to work together outside of the podcast as well, from a professional level, development level, and I'm looking forward to those. I know we talked about Houston, and I'm definitely going to hit you up next time I'm in Houston. We'll get
Awesome.
connected, have lunch or dinner or something like that one day. But for now, we're going.
Or maybe go to the zoo.
I
Did you
do.
know
I
he's a
do have
member?
a year
I did
long
not.
membership to the zoo that has about 345 days left. Long story there. I'll save the listeners from that story. Maybe a different episode. But I am a zoo member, a whole family membership to the
It's so
Houston Zoo. If
funny.
you haven't been to the Houston Zoo, here's your shout out. Go to the Houston Zoo. Even buy a membership there. That's a phenomenal place. They do a lot of great activities. It actually gets you into a lot of other areas. We're going to Tyler this weekend for a quick trip over there for an event, and the Houston Zoo membership gets you into the zoo in Tyler for free. If you did not know that,
Did not know
so
that. Okay.
it opens doors. Networking opens doors more than you would ever imagine. So for those of you that are watching, we have episodes focusing on networking. So be sure you catch those as well.
Love
But
it.
I'm going to wrap it up today for Bradley Jeffco, and I'm James Calendar with HRV, a workplace guide. Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to catch our next episode in a couple of weeks as we continue to grow the viewership and leadership and people and careers. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.